Discretion is advised.
Some viewers may find this disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good evening, Grem, and welcome everybody to the Sunday night Ben&Grem show. Grem, before we get flowing 100 mile an hour, I want to just mention I had to reinforce the studio on my end this evening due to a new mode of transport outside. It's called the two-wheeled bumblebee.
Oh wow, that sounds very interesting, Ben.
No amount of egg boxes can sort that out. Anyway, but that's not why we're here talking about egg boxes and bumblebees. We are here to say hello firstly to our first guest in the show, which is, I say our guest, our viewer, and that is Andrew Leonard White. And he says, great, you're back. Thank you very much, Andrew, and I'm glad you're back too. Yeah,
it's nice to have you back, Andrew. Thank you for supporting us.
And also, more in particularly, Grem, we have another special guest, and he's not entirely that special because it's not, let's say he is not somebody who comes about every now and again. He's quite regular, and his name is Grem. And over to you, Grem.
Me? Well, welcome to me.
Welcome to Grem. Yeah, well, it's always good getting me and Grem on the show. It has been a busy week, I would say, for the two of us, but never do we stop and never shall we miss a Ben&Grem show. However, talking about missing, there will be a slight alteration to the Monday night show, which would normally go out at 7:30, as you know, the Monday night guest show. We are having to reschedule that guest show to Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't that right, Grem?
Yes, we're having to do so due to work commitments.
Work commitments, absolutely. Grem, you could not be further from the truth there. Yeah, unfortunately, there will be times where we cannot, attend a particular night's show. But of course, in those instances, we will try and bring you at least the two shows a week. Mm-hmm. So, without further ado, Grem, let's get on to the first topic, shall we? Do you want to open up the first topic, or shall I? It's entirely up to you.
You can.
Right, okay, that's it. No problem at all. Well, thanks again, guys, for joining the stream. Andrew says, hello, Ben&Grem. Thank you. Hello, Andrew. And we're, again, very grateful to have you on board this evening. We want to start by a very distressing video, actually. We've compiled for you. The video is an aeroplane, basically, a passenger air flight that became under stress, or under much stress, should we say, causing flames from the engine. Now, I kind of thought, is it a good idea, Grem, to show such footage? But I thought, well, why not? You can look away, but I would advise to watch on because you'll miss valued parts of the Ben&Grem show, obviously. It's quite an interesting one, and it's come about today, actually, the footage. I will just say, if anybody wants to come onto the show, i.e. this evening, you can do so by calling 07948 511 608. You can do so by also commenting in the chat box of the show, and we can get cracking, and it would be good to have you on board. Either which way, you're more than welcome. Grem, shall we get on to the first topic then? So we have, yes, a plane, Grem. It's quite a serious matter, actually. Stomach-churning turbulence leaves passengers screaming and praying for flight. Praying on flight from Radar. I think it's going to be somewhere in Riyadh. I think I pronounced it correctly. Quite scary. We're going to bring you straight into the footage and enjoy, ladies and gentlemen.
Gloves or tissues, seat pocket या विमान की किसी अन्य भाग में ना छोड़ें. इन्हें केवल अराइवल हॉल में उपलब्ध बायोहैज़र्ड वेस्ट बिन में ही डालें.
Well, as you can see there, ladies and gentlemen, the footage does go dark there after a certain period of time. But how scary is that, Graham? I mean, to be on a plane and an engine starts to catch fire, or otherwise even that, it just having a huge amount of turbulence, as we saw, is a scary situation to be in. I mean, you're in a capsule, Graham, aren't you?
It is extremely scary. I don't know if I could. Well, if you're in that situation, what could you do? Except for think about your last moments. It must be pretty scary.
Absolutely, I would imagine so. Especially when, of course, you know that there's nothing you can do. You are in the hands of fate, one would say. But no, it's rather scary. I mean, it was suggested in that incident that the flight engine caught alight, and they were going through some heavy turbulence. So I don't believe there was any casualties. I do believe everyone was okay, apart from the scare, of course, which is good news. So it's good to give you some good news, at least, on that subject. Yeah, very, very scary. Graham, we have a number of different subjects we want to bring to you tonight, and the next topic we want to talk about, and please comment if you have any questions on the matter, is about the UK economy. Now, interestingly enough, Michael Gove has come out and spoken, and he has said that he wants to see the economy's engines fire. Okay, he says. That's very Boris Johnson like that, wasn't it, Graham? He says the UK government drops a stay-at-home message to government urges people to back to the workplaces, back there to the what? Pardon? Start again. Okay, cut. No, it says we want to see our economic engines fired up. I don't even know what I was saying then. Okay, so the UK government drops a message, a stay-at-home message, as the government urges people back to their workplaces. Now that sounded a bit better, ladies and gentlemen, didn't it? It says we need a teleprompter, Graham.
Yeah, we'll get one day.
Yeah. It says the workplaces, instead of working remotely, it says we need to get the country back to continue to lift COVID-19 restrictions. He also said masks in shops will not be compulsory. What do you reckon on that then, Graham?
He's suggesting that everyone goes back to normality through work, but not. How can he suggest that and follow the criteria that the companies that will be putting in place to do with the coronavirus, the distancing, and not put the necessary requirements in for face masks to be used within shops?
Yeah.
It's strange. I know it's been in the news. It's been in the news today. It's been on quite a lot of news bulletins today. I've been flicking through the radio stations.
Well,
they're all picking up on it.
Yeah, well, again, it's very mixed messages, Graham, isn't it? I mean, you've got a situation where the government are saying one thing, and then, of course, we're expected to do another, in a sense. And a lot of people are saying, when it's come under criticism, various suggestions of what we should do in the situation of COVID-19 and the regulation, or should we say the way in which we're coming out of this. Everyone's sort of saying, but actually just use your common sense. But that's all very well. But, of course, you can only use so much common sense when there's such mixed messaging, isn't it? I just don't know. I mean, I have to say, in the last few days, though, at least, or last week, I have noticed there's a lot of people going about their daily lives without the need, or should we say the use, of face masks or face coverings. I think people do realise the severity of the situation still, but people are taking a very lax approach, wouldn't you say?
I think it depends on the situation you're in. If you're with your own immediate family, then it's different. But when you're in the community and you aren't around people that you're normally around, then you need to take that extra precaution, especially within a crowded place. Then I would suggest that people did purchase some face masks to use occasionally within those environments, especially supermarkets. That's what I believe so, anyways.
I believe you right. I think there is, or has been, certainly some changes in the way that people have gone about their lives, particularly around COVID-19. I think people are edging back to a said normality, maybe too quickly in some cases, but we'll leave that down to the individual because everyone's got their own interpretation to the severity of the matter these days. There is a little bit of alarming news, though, Grem, that I also come across today, and I'm particularly disturbed by reading this, and it has come about quite recently. What do you make of this, Grem? It's our next topic. I really don't know how to put this topic because it is quite a topic. Basically, it's about the Met Police. Well, actually, it's not about the Met Police. Let's not be too critical of any particular area of the police, but. It says hundreds of UK police officers have had convictions for serious crimes, including assault and drug possession. Over 200 serving law enforcement officers in the UK have convictions of assault, drug possession, and burglary. According to a report, it has come at the Met Police officer who has been charged of a series of terrorism offences. According to the data released by Sky News under the Freedom of Information Act, forces across the UK employ at least 211 police officers and police community support officers, PCSOs, who have been found guilty of such serious crimes, media reports. Now that's quite worrying, Graham, because we're talking the people that keep us safe. We're talking people that take the moral high ground. What's going on?
So I can't believe that they're even allowed to be in the position that they're in. There's two sides, two areas you can tackle this question on. When they are going through the recruitment process, why was it never flagged up within the check? Why? And if it's happened whilst they've been employed, why are they still employed? That they should not be working in that environment. They're meant to be, as you say, to keep us safe, to keep the community safe. And it's not good when you...
Yeah, it looks like we may have just lost Graham there, just temporarily. I believe he will come back soon. No, he has come back. No, he is back. Sorry, Graham. And you were just saying, you said it's not good when but we just lost you for a moment there. We're back to you now.
Okay, cool. I don't know how far I got.
You said it's not good when and then it sort of froze up on the viewers.
Right. Well, there's two areas we can go down the question at. The recruitment of the prospective police officer or PCSOs. PCSOs, yes, that's correct. Why wasn't it flagged up in the interview process? Why was it not picked up that they've had these convictions? And if they didn't have them at that point in time, why are they still employed now? It's not appropriate, it's not acceptable.
Well, absolutely, Graham. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think there's probably going to be an inquest, isn't there, certainly on those individuals in question on the subject of the related incidents. I would say that, now it may already happen, guys, and so for those of you in the viewing department, if you can just enlighten me on this, whether actually I'm right in what I'm saying or otherwise whether it doesn't happen yet. But I was going to make the point, Graham, that it does mean, or it does need maybe, for regular, now I say CRB checks, but I suppose you could say they're CRB checks, but regular checks on the officers, standing officers, whether it's...
One other thing as well, if I may interrupt.
Sure, Graham.
It's strange that all of a sudden the media are deciding to let's release this information, isn't it? When you've got the Black Lives Matter movement accusing the police all around the world of misconduct, and the media supporting the need for change, with regards to our way of life in everything that we do, and with regards to rewriting and readjusting our past histories, and now they bring this out. It seems a bit suspicious to me.
Yeah, I think you touched on something there, Graham. I'd probably have to agree with you there. Isn't it? I mean, there's been a lot been going on in the media, hasn't there, around change of lifestyle, in the way that people view things. Maybe there's been a political persuasion, one would say, hasn't there, recently? And it's strange how, as we know already, there has been a lot of criticism for our National Police Force, and yet, although it would still continue by and large, it's quite a sad reading. I would like to hope to believe that it is just media. Now, as maybe Donald Trump would say, fake news. I would like to say, let's hope it's not quite so severe as it's suggested. But let's say in the instance that it is, then it could be a reason for the police then to really start changing certain areas of policing in the sense of how they go about employment and recruiting, keeping recruited officers, whether male or female. So I do think, there does need to be it does need to be a look into that. But that should, let's just say, there should be a message with this, though, Graham, shouldn't there? There should be a message. The message should be, despite what you've just heard, we should still give respect and not just respect to the authority, but we should also give respect to the individual officer and officers, even with that message in mind. Because, I mean, we must not lose faith in our authorities, such as our policing. It's there to protect us, and although one or two might let the side down, and that happens in all walks of life, let's not criticise.
You appear to be having an issue with my internet connection.
That's okay, Graham. You're still with us, Graham. You're still with us. Don't worry. But Graham, I was just going to say, as I was mentioning, I think we have to be, like I say, if there's any problems with individuals within a workplace or individuals within a police force or so on, we should always remember not to criticise the collective, but just the individuals. Right? It should not be seen that the workforce should be, let's say, marred for individuals' doings. Let's just be honest about that. So let's not lose faith in our authorities, Graham.
No, exactly. I mean, there's bad apples in all walks of life. There's bad apples within our own families. Not that I know of any in my family. I'm sure you don't know yours, but there's bound to be families that have it.
Well, of course.
In jobs, you will come across people you work with. What are you doing working here? How on earth have you managed to keep your job? It's quite a worry and a concern, but we get it in all walks of life. What the police need to do in this circumstances is to stamp it out now.
Yeah.
Just put a line through it. Get rid.
Yeah, not quite an underscore, but a line.
Yeah.
Tip-X out.
Line.
Tip-X. Can you use? Is it acceptable to use Tip-X in correction on certain material these days? Or
you have to put a line, a single line through it.
A single line through it. So that's neater than a bit of Tip-X, is it?
Why?
Don't know. I don't know who made that rule up. But it is right, Graham. You are right. It does exist. It's not a line. It's not a bit of Tip-X. It's a line. Well, I suppose you can't always walk around with Tip-X, can you? It's not always readily available. It's not like a toothbrush. We don't keep on us all the time. So I suppose a pen is always with us. So therefore, a line is easier to establish, isn't it? So yeah, I suppose. Graham, so we got over that subject. Andrew Leonard White, he's just given us a smiley face. Yeah, thanks, Andrew. I'm pretty sure you agree with this on most parts. It's a real shame to hear that of the police force, but I don't, like I say, we shouldn't question and criticise the absolute overarching and industry itself, but we should certainly that of those individuals. That's about that. That's all I have to say about that, Graham.
Cool.
Right, topic number 4. Now this is an interesting topic, and it's one that's been circulating the news for, I would say, some time now. It's about UK telecoms, or UK telecom firms, and basically it's about 5G. So I'll just read out the article. It says the UK telecoms firms warn rushing to phase out Huawei. I actually said it correct that time. 5G gear up to take years and costs billions, at least 5 years. Ideally 7. So we're talking about winding down Huawei. So of course we're talking of all the setup that's been put in place already. We know that there's been a lot of controversy around Huawei and the data information that's been potentially exposed or having information into secret files and all that sort of stuff. So basically, there's talk, certainly from the US and also from the UK, of winding down Huawei communication. It says here will be needed. So 5-7 years will be needed Huawei's equipment 5G to be disassembled. It says Vodafone and BT have told British MPs the introduction of the ultra-fast networks across the country would be delayed, they warned. Executives from rival countries, British Telecom and Vodafone, manufactured by the Chinese IT giant, speculation that the UK government could ban Huawei's gear from British networks as circulated in press in recent days. So we're talking about a situation here, Graham, aren't we, that if we do see the complete destruction of Huawei and their technology, that it's going to set us back 5 to 7 years for the likes of BT and Vodafone. So, as we've understood, many telephone communications agencies and so on, they work together. They work on each other's equipment. Hop onto each other's signalling and everything else. So, of course, if one giant, if you wish, pulls away, then it's going to leave a bit of a void, isn't it, Graham? And then
spoke, didn't we? Last week we spoke on. Is it Vodafone? Was it Vodafone taken, or was it Virgin?
It was indeed, Graham. It was actually, I think, Vodafone we've spoken of, and briefly on Virgin as well. And again, it's a story, as you know, it's been circulating for many months since, of course, Donald Trump spoken on the matter, and of course Boris equally about 5G. 5G is I don't know really. I tend to feel, Graham, it's my opinion, I suppose, but I tend to feel that given what's going on with China and of what we do know, I just feel that it's kind of like saying, we've upset us enough, so we're just going to upset you now and we're not going to work with you anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know whether actually this 5G business, Huawei, is actually genuine or not. I would like to believe it isn't. I mean, are the Chinese really into something here? But I'm convinced almost that maybe it's because of what's been going on with China, and I just think it's maybe others fighting back a little bit. What do you think?
It is a concern because China do have most of the countries around the world in their grasp, because where like for example, where we don't have much of industries left anymore, like we used to have, because everything is being made cheaply within China, and the industries that we do have, you'll probably find in researching that a Chinese company has a large lump share of said company if they don't own it. Going back a few years, we had Midland Bank, which was a major UK bank back growing up from a youngster, and China, Hong Kong, I believe, brought Midland Bank out, and that's called HSBC now, like for everyone that realises that. It's a concern that we've allowed our industries to die off and revert to cheap labour, and we now don't have the ammunition, if you'd like to say, the protection to be able to pull in the resources, because we don't have them. If that makes sense.
It does, Graham. It does. It makes perfect sense. It does make sense. And we are in the middle of something at the moment, aren't we? In the sense of how, things are going nationally and internationally. When we talk of Huawei and China, and they're upset with us maybe over the situation, and it's kind of muscle flexing, you would say, isn't it? But also just want to also add, following on from that, we're talking about issues around the world and so on, and I want to talk about Kim Jong-un, North Korea, because North Korea, they are again a you would say up and coming nation, wouldn't you, in the sense of technology and the world mark, if you like. They're coming up in the world, and Kim Jong-un has suggested that we've become, the UK now, almost puppets to America. America have made various different sanctions on North Korea, and we seem to be following suit, admittedly. They're speaking out. Kim Jong-un has suggested that we seem to be somewhat puppets to the US, which one would disagree or one would agree. It's each to their own, I suppose, on that matter. Graham, I mean, would you say that? I mean, Kim Jong-un is a very influential character, isn't he? I suppose in North Korea, and we know we had all the controversy, didn't we, over the nuclear weapon usage and so on, and of course disarming of, and I think they're here to stay, aren't they? I think they are certainly somebody who's prepared to make a stand, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. With regards to the country following in America every step, every turn, every junction, it's going to happen in certain cases, and it should do for the financial side of things, because we do need to rebuild our financial structure desperately, and the USA are a big part in that, so we do need to bend over a little bit. But I don't believe that we should be saying yes, okay, we'll do that, we will follow you, sweet. It's just not appropriate to do so. We shouldn't have to do that. And if North Korea, is it North Korea?
It is, Graham, yeah.
Sorry, apologies. If they are doing wrong, then yes, we will basically say to them, sorry, we're putting these sanctions in because of this. Explain yourselves. But if they're not doing wrong, then we shouldn't be following in America's footsteps. But certain things we will have to.
Yeah.
To help rebuild our nation, not just after coronavirus, but to rejoin the world again. We are going to be an international trading nation again. We need that financial backup to give us a jet stream to jump on. We can't do it without it, so we will have to bend over in a few places.
Yes, we will. We will indeed. And Graham, just want to talk about a youngster, superstar on this one, just throwing the subject from one way to another. Erling Haaland, ladies and gentlemen, is a footballer from Borussia Dortmund, which is the German Bundesliga side. Now, he's a young inspiration to football, and his father, Alf-Inge Haaland, years ago used to play for, yes, my club, Leeds United, some years ago. But Erling Haaland is a bit of a superstar. He's making headlines in football quite a lot, and it's been known that he's been thrown out of a Norwegian nightclub. There's a video that goes with it. We haven't got the video to show you guys. We might be able to find the video for you in the edited version of the show, but yeah, he's been thrown out. So the point being is these people in this sort of limelight, so we're talking of famous footballers and famous people in general, is it right for them to behave like this? I mean, I would say, well, they're just human beings after all, wouldn't you say, Graham? They're entitled to live their lives just as equally as anybody else. But should they be doing these things because they're in the spotlight? I don't know. What do you think, Graham?
Well, they need to live a normal life as much as possible, but they do need to reflect that everything that they do, they have to reflect on how it's going to come across to people, how it's going to come across, especially to the media. At the end of the day, they are individuals within an area of expertise, and they don't just have a job to do on their part and for the fans of said football group. They have the responsibility to uphold the good name of that group and the good name of the fans.
Yeah, absolutely, Graham. You make a good point there, and I think the point also going by what we said about the police force and certain agencies with certain individuals that, let's just say, you could use the terminology playing up. We should not discriminate or criticise or question the actual company itself or organisation, because there will be times where people let the side down. And of course, similarly with Borussia Dortmund, they will probably pull him aside and say, look, be careful. We know you're young. We know we know you've got your own life outside of football, but just be careful. Because the media want a story, and of course, if you're in the limelight, it makes it slightly easier for them to find you. So of course, just be careful, young lad. I mean, he's a good player though, isn't he? And do you know what? I don't think it'll be long before he comes to the Premier League. Grem. I mean, if you know of Inga Haaland, Erling Haaland.
Surprisingly, yes.
Yeah, he's certainly making a name for himself, and I would imagine one of the big clubs in the UK, United Kingdom, England, football would come in for him, but we'll have to wait and see. It could be any of them, really. It could even be a Spanish club, maybe Barcelona or Real Madrid, you just don't know. But I think he will be... I don't think he will spend his whole entire career at Borussia Dortmund. I think there's a good chance he will move on.
Someone to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. There is the need for that. Andrew, let's just talk about Andrew. So Andrew says, oh, Grem, hang on a minute. We just got to go over some of the comments here. German football is good, Andrew says. Yes, it is. It is. And actually, it has been said, Andrew, in the past that German football is very similar to English football in the sense of the contest. It's very, very, very similar, the level of football. Andrew says, yes, Andrew, he says that I'm very quiet. Graham is really quiet when he's on his own screen. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, thanks very much, Andrew, for giving us a heads up with that. I can hear him 60% quieter than Ben. Okay, yeah, well, that's right. Now, what? That's me, actually, Andrew. Thank you for that. Basically, there is a setting. So basically, what happens is when our Graham, our very own Graham, when he is talking to you on camera, individually, he is slightly higher than me, and that was done for a reason. But I hope it's not too awkward for you guys. And the same applies to me. So if I go over to Graham, or if you go over to me, Graham will be slightly quietened up. It's just the way it is. I don't know why it's like that. But of course, when we are as we are now, we are all together, and it should be equal levelling. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Has anybody got any questions, any points of view, any news of their own to bring on the show? We are, cracking on. It's been an interesting evening already. And Graham, what about you? What's your week been like? I mean, have you, like I say, with coronavirus and everything else? I mean, obviously things are going back to a said normal now, and with that, obviously our lives are changing. Whether they're changing back to a said normal to what we know, or they're changing in such a way that we can't comprehend. What would you say?
Well, as I've said before, it's the current crisis that we're going through. It hasn't affected me too much because my job is night shifts within the mental health sector, so I'm still able to go to work with wearing the necessary safety equipment, PPE, and as I've stated before, the company do have excellent supply of PPE. In fact, they've gone, I would say, over the top, but rightly so. It's best to have more than what you need.
Yeah, absolutely, Graham. No, I agree. Talking of COVID-19, it's basically Florida has been said to have the highest daily spike recently. In recent time, it says that the biggest daily increase among all states since the start of the COVID-19 epidemic. It says that Florida confirms over 15,000 new infections. Now that's something else, Graham, isn't it? And that's news. That's recent.
That is rather concerning. Maybe it's just the fact of life there, and the way of life there. It's quite busy in Florida, and everyone wants to be an actor, don't they, or an actress. It's the way it is.
Yeah, well, that's it. I think, what we do know, or what we've certainly learned, I suppose you could say, with COVID-19, the pandemic is, or epidemic, however which way you want to refer it, is that it doesn't have a problem with temperature, does it? It seems like it can manifest within cold and hot environments. And we're seeing that certainly in places like Iceland, which is very cold, and they've had cases, and with now Florida, which again is a nice, warm climate. So it really doesn't matter where you are. Mm-hmm. It seems, of course, it's getting people regardless. And it's certainly not discriminating, as it's been said. So
it has to be extremely cold, though. I mean, like below, I think it's like teetering on, isn't it, on freezing?
Yeah.
For it to get off, and the temperature, hot temperature, is about 27 to 30, I believe they say. I don't know if that is the case, but they must have done tests on it within the laboratories.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously they are doing tests all the time, aren't they? They are looking for a cure, and although we seem to be getting ever closer to one, we still are nowhere closer enough. But of course, yes, they would have discovered that this is a bit of a brutal disease flowing about, isn't it? It's not one that's going away. I think what we can also say about it, Graham, is that it's not going to go away anytime soon, in that, like the flu, I think flus and colds, they are always here to stay. But I think we as people have to take necessary precautions about our daily lives to pin it back. You know what I mean? I think they will always be there, always circulate, because it essentially is a strain of the flu, isn't it? But just a more severe case of. So we're probably always going to have it, as I say, but we just need to be mindful. I know one thing, Graham, and I'm not sure about the viewers here, and I'm pretty sure you maybe feel the same, Graham, but I would say I really do hope that we do not have to spend the rest of our lives wearing face masks.
So do I. But I have faith within the, I have faith it's not going to be the case. Maybe by about October it might lighten up a bit. But definitely by this time, by next year, I don't expect to see any. But let's wait and see. I mean, we have, I'm involved with a local community group, and we have already paid for the Dover Town Hall for our Halloween event this year. I'm seriously considering, in discussing with the other directors of the group now, to see if we can transfer the funds to that onto the following year. But there's a big but. It all depends on whether the town hall are going to have their renovations done or not. They've got some work booked, and I believe that is 2021, 2022, so it may affect us there. So it's difficult. This pandemic has caused a lot of charitable groups issues to contend with. It's not a nice time for them.
No, it's not. But whatever we say about it, it's not going away, and I do hope this time next year, Graham, as you say, is going to be a time where we can sort of move on and go back to what we would know as a normal lifestyle. I mean, I have to say, it's sad. I mean, it's not important really in the grand scheme of things, but just to see football stadiums empty is just weird. And I'd like to believe that sorts itself out, particularly for the start of the next season, but I might be a little bit optimistic there. But yeah, I have to say I'm a bit sad because we have had some recent sad news in Jack Charlton has sadly passed away. A Leeds legend. He was a Leeds United player for many, many years. He made some career out of his football at Leeds. One of the greats for Leeds. He's one of the well-remembered players of its time, the club's time. And he also had involvement as managerial work within Irish football as well, just for those of you that want to know. But yeah, it's quite sad. Leeds played Swansea very recently, and they won 1-0. This was actually yesterday, and they did it for him. They did it for Jack Charlton. So they won.
Good.
They won, and it was kind of a nice
memory
for his memory.
A lot of people, if you mention his name, they will know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah,
he will go down in history as one of the football greats.
Well, it's like Bobby Charlton, isn't it? Same sort of thing. I mean, Bobby Charlton is still live and kicking, and great that he is, and. He again is a legend in football, and Jack Charlton, Bobby Charlton, they're the sort of names that people remember. They're iconic names, and sadly, sadly we lose our lives. The times do come, and memories stay with us. But so very sad news of Jack Charlton.
Yeah. Also, with regards to him, and the memory of him, as I said, people will always remember him, and the personal sacrifice that he actually gave to the sport, and he stayed loyal. He stayed loyal to it, and to the group that he was supporting. He stayed loyal. He wasn't moving here and there and that because the deal was better here and there. If he signed up with someone, he was loyal to them, and that's something that's missing. I feel a bit in most football clubs now. I don't follow football, so I feel that money seems to be a big factor now to persuade individuals to move on. And some of these football teams and that are losing great and amazing players because someone's offering them an extra couple of million a year. I don't know.
No, Graham, I think you've got a point there, and that does happen. You've always got a point. I keep making out. Yeah, that's right. Footballers, it's very money-orientated football these days, and of course we are seeing that in all teams, really. The last conversation I come off recently was Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish is a midfielder, I believe. Yes, he is. I think he's a midfielder. You can correct me if I'm wrong. For Aston Villa. Now, Aston Villa, I think they won their recent game, but they are still battling to stay up in the Premier League. Sadly for Norwich, they are now going down into the Championship. They have been relegated, but there has been talk about clubs like Manchester United that want to take Jack Grealish away, and so again, money, and not just that, opportunity. I mean, Jack Grealish, if he goes down to the Championship club again as a Championship club again for Aston Villa, if a Premier League club comes in for him, I can't imagine he's going to stick around. He's going to go, and that's it. Graham, you make that point. It's money. One thing though, around the pandemic, the COVID-19 though, I did say actually to a few people that I thought that given the way that money is being hard to find, let's say, within football, although we know that money's full of it, and football's full of money, we have found recently that with the pandemic we have seen Sky, if you like, lose lots of revenue, and of course football has suffered in turn for that, and as a result there could be some belts tightening. Now, if football clubs are not getting the same sort of revenue through advertising, if you wish, then and contributions in such form, then actually what we could start to see is players being affected financially in that instance. So we could see players' wages being affected. We could see tickets being affected, i.e. whether they go up or down. I mean, this is another thing. Again, it's all not a guarantee, what I'm saying. I mean, none of these changes might come into effect, but we could, I thought, maybe start to see some changes with the way that football is being conducted financially. And where I'm trying to come to is that back in the day, now I'm talking sort of in the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, there used to be a type of football style that, of course, if you were a footballer, you could play in a football team, and you might be on no more than, say, £1,000 a week. You might even be less than that. Actually, I think it was a lot less than that. I think they were in line, let's say, wages were in line with much of what we are on the average wage of today. For those that work in, let's say, commonly known normal jobs, and it was a totally different environment then. Footballers, they lived a different lifestyle. There wasn't so much social media, but of course they used to be one of the community. You used to see them walking into the town. They were like anybody else, and they played football, and then they were just as anybody else after football. And nowadays it's become very star-like, hasn't it? Like, for example, money's big.
Yes. But it will do though, Ben, won't it? When they whack up like salaries to like 32 million or something stupid, 100 million, it's ridiculous, totally ridiculous.
Well, it is.
The question is, would I turn the money down?
Well, this is the thing, and Graham, that's the point, isn't it? Money speaks volumes.
If it's being paid, if it's being offered, then you're going to be a fool to turn it down. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, you would be a fool to turn it down, and it's like in all things. If you're doing a job and then another company comes in for you who want to offer you more money for doing the same job you're already doing, you're going to take it. I mean, you'd be mad not to. And then, there was this kind of thing, isn't it, around football?
There's that old saying, isn't there, that the grass is not always greener on the other side.
No, that's true, and then that's it. The grass is never always greener. But the point is, Graham, is that you make the very point. Is you know, people get upset with footballers that stick around, and then all of a sudden they shoot off to another football team, and then they say, but they didn't really play for the shirt. Well, actually, they probably did, but the opportunity wasn't there for them, and now it is. And the fact is, it's down to the clubs then to ensure that they want to keep their best players. They need to negotiate and say to this player, look, we don't want you to go. Would you be willing to stay? What would keep you here? I'm sure that does happen, obviously, behind the scenes. But when it comes down to money, sometimes clubs don't want to pay the extra money, and of course, with that, these players go off and play elsewhere. It happens all the time. Leeds United, as a club that I support, as you know, is one that has been always known as having a very, very good youth academy, and even today. But the thing, of course, is you get what you call feeder clubs, where football clubs tend to bring these good players in, they hone them, they make them what they are, and then they go off to other clubs, bigger clubs, who have got the money to support them, and they never come back. And that's just the thing. These clubs need to retain their assets sometimes. And it's not just Leeds; it's other clubs as well that have got great academy setups. They need to keep their players, to keep their homegrown players. But yeah, that's just it, isn't it? If football was as it was back then in the 50s, 60s and 70s, there's a good chance that those people, i.e. coming through the academy, would probably stay at the club. Because it's where they were brought up. They were made into football at that time, at that club. And there would be no incentive, because the money that they'd be thrown at elsewhere would not be of a certain value that would be appealing to them. So that's where you could sort of say, would it be nice to see that sort of style of football and lifestyle come back? I think for many, yes. What would we also see with that? Well, actually, we'd also see football coming back to a day where, you've got English clubs playing English or British players. Whereas, a lot of the football now is very international on the football stage. For example,
It used to be like it.
No.
Even growing up, when I was growing up as from a young age, the footballers, it was whatever nation that you were in.
Yeah.
you came from that nation.
Absolutely.
But now they're all shipped in from all over the place, because so-and-so is offering more money.
Well, yeah, Graham, we're onto something here, aren't we? Because you could also say the same about the National Health Service. The same applies, doesn't it? If for a doctor to work in a country elsewhere may not be getting paid the sort of money that they would be getting paid to do the same job, but in our NHS service. So admittedly, that seems to be the way of the world, doesn't it? June says, bloody football. Hi, June. Nice to see you.
Is that actually the word she's using?
She has used that word, yes. Yes, very good. I like that.
Didn't start with a letter after the letter E then?
No.
Oh, that's amazing, June. Well done.
Yeah, I know, football. Not everybody wants to hear football, do they? All right, it's the Ben&Grem show. What are we doing? No, no, it's just one of those topics, isn't it? Everyone's got a bit of football in them, one way or another, or at least everyone's got something to say on the matter. But yeah. Football, nightmare. Right, so with that, Graham, what else have you got for the viewers? It's a lovely day, and we are seeing a bit of nice weather again. We had seen a couple of miserable days, but we're coming back to a nice, warm environment for us, aren't we? Any plans out there? Anybody got any plans over the next few days? For those of you that maybe have the time off or otherwise working, what's going on in the world? What's happening, Graham?
Oh, well, with myself, it's just normal day, mate. All day for you. I will be on the ice cream van again tomorrow. That's me. Ice cream van and doing my bit for my family.
Yeah, and June makes a very good point. She said it's not over yet. People are still dying, and even though we are trying to get back to a normality, we are still having to take precautions. When we're out and about and visiting friends and family and work as well. Obviously workplaces like mine, and I'm sure many others, are putting the necessary precautions in place to protect not only your lives but others as well. But we must not get too sidetracked. We heard about pubs. Some pubs have opened and then certainly closed again, because people weren't social distancing, and we've heard that in the news over the last few weeks. Yeah, we just got to be responsible. But Graham, it goes back to the point earlier, is that, are we ever going to see the end of this? Now, I'd like to believe we would. I think we would all like to believe we would. But
I do, mate. It will happen.
Well,
Probably it won't be until about maybe March next year, May time. But let's wait and see. Let's all have to have faith in our governments.
yeah, absolutely.
Local authorities and the people. The instructions that we are receiving, if we are not adhering to, or only are adhering to, then it's not going to go away any quicker.
It's not, but Graham, I suppose what you could ask yourself is that, you know, if, like, for example, each year, not just the elderly, but any age can be eligible for the flu vaccine. Now, if there has to be or is a vaccine for COVID-19, that you would actually hope that we'd be eligible for it, you know, and we could take that vaccine through choice. And I think if people were to do that year in, year out, then it would protect us. It would be a shield, if you like. And of course, that's the benefit by having the vaccine. So I don't know about you, Graham, but if there does become a vaccine, I'm pretty sure I'll be like you and others in line to get it on the basis of living a fairly normal life again.
Yes, I would as well. I'll be not one of the first in the group, but I'll be there.
Definitely. Andrew has said that it's lovely weather where he is. Now, he's up Sheffield way, I believe. Yeah, that's nice to know. It's good to see we're getting a bit of nice weather again. And in a way, you've got to be kind of grateful that the lockdown has subsided somewhat for us to be able to go out and enjoy what lives we have got at the moment with the freedoms that we've got. You know, we're not locked down entirely, are we? Still, you know, we're not completely locked down, so we are still able to go out and about. And as again, the government have recently asked, haven't they, since we mentioned earlier, Graham, about how we need people to go back from working remotely from home, but actually to go back to their companies and start to get the economy rolling again, which is a very, very important point. I think we do, but I do think we shouldn't dismiss, Graham, the very scary factor of an economic crisis, because like 2008, the crash, you know, there could be one, and we are in control of that.
Yes.
So do we want one? No, of course we don't. How can we get around it? Well, work hard, get back out there, and
work hard, get back to work, get back as many of the sectors back to work as possible.
Absolutely.
They don't have to be necessarily running at 100% of their efficiency that they were.
Yes.
But a majority of the group, they need to be back.
They do. It's the only way to go, isn't it, Graham? Because, like I say, we can't afford another crash, economic crash. I mean, but otherwise, international crash. You know, I mean, we are one of the highest leading countries in the world. You know, the third largest economy, as it's been known. Well, it depends who you speak to. Some say fifth.
We fluctuate, don't we, in different news and media outlets. You know, but you know, we're either third, fourth, or fifth, or sixth.
Yeah, well, let's say we're certainly top five, aren't we, Graham? We're certainly top five, and
yes,
I think with that, you know, if we go under a recession, that will have a devastating effect on the rest of the world. In the same token, if America or another country of a leading country would similarly go into a recession, we'd all suffer. So we've all got to work together. I think it's everywhere, isn't it? It's not just the United Kingdom. We've all got a part to play. But it is worrying news about Florida, and obviously seeing that spike that they've recently discovered. That's worrying. And it goes to the point, isn't it? We heard Brazil the other week; they had many cases, and of course now we're hearing America in a state of Florida. They are not clear of it, so we're not clear of it, Graham. We're still around. But what we do know is you can travel now, and you haven't got to restrict yourself on travel. So whereas it was known recently that you had to.
I won't be travelling.
You will or you won't, Graham?
And I don't even want to have any conversations with anybody, any of my friends, who tell me that they were going to go to Spain or whatever. Don't talk to me. I don't want to know what you're going on a holiday at this moment in time. It's ridiculous.
It is. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, we do know that the airlines are now operating. I know there's people within my life that recently that I've come across that are or have booked up holidays,
How about visiting Europe as such? You know, locally, like Calais, etc.
Yeah, you can.
Is that up and running yet?
It is, yes, it is, Graham. I mean, but like I said, there was France, as it was known to be recently, was suggested on the green list of countries to visit under the pandemic. So, for example, a safe country. So what they're suggesting is, at one stage recently, it was said that when you travel to places like France or even into mainland Europe, you have to self-isolate for 2 weeks after travel. Well, now the government are saying, no, you don't have to do that anymore. So, of course, now we're seeing, I certainly know from what I've seen, is there has been a huge influx in traffic. And obviously, again, people are expected at the very least to wear facial masks when travelling on public transport. But it depends on how you deem public transport and what type of public transport. Like, for example, if it's catching the local bus, then it's public transport. If it's taking a train, it's public transport. I think if you go, whether it's the ferries or Eurotunnel, again, that's seen as public transport, isn't it? So you've got to.
Well, it will be as well, and it'd be a bit like sitting on a cruise liner, won't it? It's a ventilation system that will carry any virus around.
Well, exactly, yeah. But, people will use their own discretion, and admittedly, as much as the government will say, look, guys, if you're going to go out and about and you're going to travel, you're going to do this, you can do that, please wear facial masks, think of others, protect others, save lives and all the rest of it. People will be using their own initiative, of course, and it's down to the people to be responsible. And that's all the government can ask for. So we've got to take ownership and respect in the wishes of the government. But I think people are. I mean, of course, you're going to get the odd few, aren't you? It's known that aren't going to take precaution, not going to wear facial masks. They're not going to believe in it. You've got some people that don't even believe any of this is actually happening. And they believe that it's some form of New World Order, which, again, is an opinion. I'm not one that I share, of course. I'm sure you similarly, Grem. But of course, you're going to get people like that. We live in a big world, and people have their opinions. So Lee is here. It says, hi, Graham. Graham is extra quiet. Graham, you're extra quiet. Graham, just say a few words for me a minute.
I'm extra quiet whilst I'm talking, is it? Can you hear me? Can anyone hear me?
He is not quiet anymore. Graham, here he is. He's still quiet. Hang on, folks.
We're working at it. We're early stages and we're getting used to these systems. So I'm sure as long as people can hear me, kind of.
Yeah, they can hear you, Graham. They can hear you now. That's important.
Yes, most certainly it is. Not that I've got much to talk about, but I do try my hardest. That's for certain.
But Graham, you don't need to try. Some people are natural. And you are natural. Take it or leave it, Graham. You are natural. But no, we've got Graham. He's back, and he's loud. Thanks, guys, for. It's only a couple of times you suggested it. Thanks, I got it eventually. That's it. He says that's it. Lee says that's it. No, it was just a bar or two I needed to tweak. But it's fine. It's fine. It's all good, Graham, isn't it? It's all good. It's all rolling well in here. Yeah, he'll do that. Well, yeah, exactly. But anyway, guys, we are apologetic on the subject of the Monday night show. Again, Lee, you weren't in the show at the time, but we will say to you as well, for those of you that didn't catch it, we will be holding a Monday night show, but it won't be Monday night, it'll be Wednesday night. So technically it's not Monday night because it's Wednesday. But we will be holding the Wednesday night show. But it will be the Wednesday night guest show, not the Monday night this week. So It will be 19-30 hours. And Graham, we've made some huge leaps and bounds tonight to get this show on the road, and it's here, and that's the most important thing. We're pleased to bring it your way. We're grateful as well for you to come in on the viewing panel. Been really good, actually. Thank you. But I just feel like it's time to wrap it up, Graham. I mean, unless you've got other things you need to say, because the viewers are here. Lee, sorry, you just come in on the stream as well, and it looks like we're going to lose you. But no, thanks to everybody again for joining us and being the Ben&Grem show, making it what the Ben&Grem show is. Thank you. If any of you guys, whilst watching the streams, during the week, if you ever feel that there's something you want us to air, or whether there's some material that you want us to show or talk about, please feel free to message the Ben&Grem show page, the Facebook page, where we can pick up on that. If you want to come on the show this week, Wednesday, we are still having availability to do so. That will be Wednesday night at 7:30. Please, again, put your interest in on the Facebook page. We have got others lined up, but we want to give the opportunity for those to put themselves forward. And if you want to get involved in the chat and you're not watching the stream, but you want to be part of the stream, you can do so by calling the phone number of the chat show, which is 07948 511 608. And more information will be in the description box of the stream later to come. Yeah, so that's about it, Graham, really, isn't it? It's another episode. It's another Sunday night. You've been watching the Ben and Graham show, and that's pretty much it, guys, for another evening. Graham?
Thank you, Ben, for helping make tonight a possibility. So, thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. No, Graham, thank you. And thank everybody. That's to Andrew, that's to Lee, and that's to June as well. Thank you, June, for coming in on the show. June, you're not going to get away with this, by the way. You will be coming on back on the show if you don't mind. We will get you back on, and we will get you...
Yes, we may even bring in someone along with you as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Against her will.
Or forgotten.
Mm.
So, without further ado, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching the Ben and Graham show, and we will see you Wednesday evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, guys.